It's Thursday, June 5th, 2025, possibly the most mind-numbing judicial activism yet. Russia is getting set to retaliate against Ukraine and Palantir. Who is it? What is it? And why is it? Next on the AM Update.
Elon and I left on a great note. We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposes the bill. And it surprised me, frankly.
It's not news that they disagree with this president on policy, and the president has vocally called them out for it and for them not having their facts together.
But mainly respect for our children and grandchildren. This is immoral, what us old farts are doing to our young people. This is grotesque what we're doing. We need to own up to that.
A recurring and really annoying theme so far this year. It seems like whatever the latest instance of judicial tyranny is, whatever instance that is, seems to be the one that takes the cake. Well, I think we might have the quintessential example. A federal judge has tried to block the Trump administration from deporting the wife and 5 children of the suspect in the horrific anti-Semitic attack in Boulder, Colorado. U.S. District Judge Gordon Gallagher in Colorado granted the request on Wednesday to halt the deportations of the family of Mohamed Soliman. The White House said that the family had been fast-tracked to be deported to Egypt. Soliman, of course, entered the U.S. in 2022 under a visa, but illegally stayed in the country after it expired. He'd also applied for asylum. More than a dozen people, of course, were injured in that terrorist attack. Less than a week ago, not even a whole week had passed, and basically only 24 hours had passed since the family went into ICE custody. And here's another federal judge just trying to throw sand into the gears of the Trump administration and their rightful duty to carry out the laws to protect this country. President Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday, quote, "I just finished speaking by telephone with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call lasted about an hour and 15 minutes. We discussed Ukraine's attack on Russia's docked airplanes and various other attacks that have been taking place by both sides. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace." President Putin did say that he's going to have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields and respond strongly. So again, it sounds like a retaliatory attack from Russia against Ukraine could be coming. That one might be the big one. It might be the big one. I've got the spidey senses tingling because their reaction, Russia's reaction to the drone attack on their strategic bombers deep inside Russia, it seemed like they were pretty well pissed off. Well, Elon Musk is also pissed off. He is continuing on the warpath against the big, beautiful bill, the budget reconciliation. He posted a number of things yesterday on social media in opposition to the bill, including this, quote, "Call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the bill," end quote. Now, some have speculated that what Elon Musk is very upset about, actually, is that this big, beautiful bill might actually kill some subsidies, some tax credits for electric vehicles, which, of course, would hurt his bottom line. Speaker Mike Johnson is just as befuddled and dumbfounded as anyone on Elon Musk's complete 180.
Look, let me just address the Elon controversy and tell you that I consider Elon a friend. He's obviously brilliant. I just told you we credit him with all the big changes with Doge and everything else. It's curious to me what happened this week. And full disclosure, Elon and I had a great conversation, about a half-hour-long talk on Monday this week, Monday morning. And we talked about the big, beautiful bill because I think he was trying to make a joke a couple of days earlier. It can't be big and beautiful. And I started the conversation, oh, yes, it can, my friend. It's very beautiful. So we talked about all the record level of savings. My friends, no government in the history of mankind has ever cut $1.6 trillion in a piece of legislation. We're doing that here. The extraordinary level of savings and the historic level of tax cuts at the same time, and all these great policy prescriptions. And I talked to Elon through all that and explained to him what we're doing, and that this is just the beginning of a long process of making government more efficient and effective, of cutting wasteful spending, fraud, and abuse. And you can't do it all in one bill. It took Congress decades to get to this situation. It's going to take us a little while to get out of it. But we have a very specific plan to do that. And Elon was encouraged by that conversation. It was a very friendly, very fruitful conversation together. And he and I talked about the midterm elections. And he said, well, I'm going to help. We got to make sure that the Republicans keep the House majority. We can't have the president impeached, which is what the Democrats would do on day one, as we all well know. And we've got to continue this. The Trump administration needs 4 years to do all this reform, not 2 years. The Biden administration, Biden-Harris, made such a disaster of every metric of public policy, it's going to take us more than one bill to fix it all. Elon and I left on a great note. We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposes the bill. And it surprised me, frankly. And I don't take it personal. We don't take it personal.
So that is House Speaker Mike Johnson, very frustrated with Elon Musk's 180 on the big, beautiful bill. I let that clip play out a little bit longer because I think it actually illustrates how mystified it seems like the Trump wing of the Republican Party actually is with Elon Musk's antics this week. Just doing a total 180 after a pleasant conversation, it sounds like, with Speaker Johnson on Monday. So frustration between Johnson and Musk, frustration between the White House and Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson. CNN's Caitlin Collins asked Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt whether it's the White House's position that those two senators are just blatantly wrong.
It's not news that they disagree with this president on policy, and the president has vocally called them out for it and for their not having their facts together. I would add the Congressional Budget Office has been historically wrong. In fact, they predicted the Trump tax cuts from the president's first term in 2017. Their prediction was wrong by $500 billion. Those tax cuts had nearly $500 billion more of revenue than the Congressional Budget Office scored. And I would also point out, I don't think many people know this, there hasn't been a single staffer in the entire Congressional Budget Office that has contributed to a Republican since the year 2000. But guess what? There have been many staffers within the Congressional Budget Office who have contributed to Democrat candidates and politicians every single cycle since. So,
just objectively speaking, that's some good messaging from the White House, or objectively as I can be. Meanwhile, one of those senators, Ron Johnson, says they need to start taking him and his cadre who are opposed to the bill a little bit more seriously.
Now we're over $37 trillion. We're serious about this. They need to take us seriously. Don't insult us. Work with us. Lay out the numbers. If you can say that our numbers are wrong, fine. Let's work through it. But again, every analysis I have, there's greater upside risk to that deficit. Interest rates are moving up. If we go increase interest rates 1%, that's another $4 trillion over 10 years in terms of deficit. If we don't replace the $4 trillion, that's $4 trillion of lost revenue. Again, and growing the economy 3%, it adds to it a little bit, but mostly in the out years. So again, come to the table. Let's look at the numbers. If I'm wrong, prove that I'm wrong. But let's do it with respect, but mainly respect for our children and grandchildren. This is immoral, what us old farts are doing to our young people. This is grotesque what we're doing. We need to own up to that. This is our moment. I can't accept this scenario. I can't accept it, so I won't vote for it unless we are serious about fixing it.
Senator Ron Johnson saying that those in the White House and those in favor of the big, beautiful bill need to start taking him and his cadre more seriously. Meanwhile, President Trump doubled down Wednesday on calls to scrap the nation's debt ceiling, pressing for bipartisan action to abolish it and finding common ground with Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "I'm very pleased to announce that after all these years, I agree with Senator Elizabeth Warren on something. The debt ceiling should be entirely scrapped to prevent an economic catastrophe. It's too devastating to be put in the hands of political people that may want to use it despite the horrendous effect it would have on our country and indirectly on the world." So that is President Trump saying he finally finds himself in alignment with Elizabeth Warren. Now, this is something. The Real Clear Politics average approval rating for President Trump finds him higher at this point in his second term than George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Isn't that something? A U.S. senator's spouse was placed on a government watch list in 2023 after a surveillance program flagged his travel profile. But he was removed after the senator back-channeled with administration officials. Shortly after, New Hampshire Democrat Senator Jeanne Shaheen spoke with the Transportation Security Administration about her husband, William Shaheen. TSA officials actually removed him from a list of people subjected to additional security and scrutiny under TSA's Quiet Skies domestic surveillance program. William Shaheen, a Lebanese-American attorney active in the Arab-American community, was then placed on a different list which excluded him from any future advanced screening, including random checks at airport TSA checkpoints. The episode took place in a heightened security environment in October of 2023, days after Hamas attacked Israel and killed more than 1,200 people. TSA's, of course, surveillance efforts have long attracted criticism, rightfully so, for tracking U.S. citizens not suspected of any crimes. The circumstances that land an individual on a list or what gets them removed have been mostly concealed from the public. This story isn't going to make that sentiment get any better. When we come back, well, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, he's pretty confident he would not actually make it through the Senate if he had his confirmation hearing today. A Democrat congresswoman sees illegal aliens as being those who wipe your bottom, we'll just put it that way, and a brain-eating amoeba from drinking and flushing out your nose with tap water. Yeah, that happened in Texas. We'll tell you about it next.
We have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people.
That is Vermont's sole congresswoman, who would be Becca Valent, who held a town hall where she stated what you just heard there. We have to keep importing millions upon millions of foreigners, of third worlders, because she believes those are who wipe our bottoms. You know, I saw a clip the other day of Congressman Jerry Nadler, I think it was earlier last year in 2024, just blatantly saying, if we don't import these millions upon millions of third worlders into our country, nobody's going to be able to pick the cotton, he said. What he actually said was, all of our crops will rot in the ground. I guess we're taking that even further thanks to Vermont's congresswoman who says that if we don't import millions of third worlders into our country, nobody's going to be able to wipe our butts. That's incredible. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, spoke at the American Compass Gala the other night, and he told a story about President Trump having some doubts about him early on in his tenure as Secretary of State.
By the way, the president was I got 99 out of 100 votes because the vice president at the time had seated up and filled, and the president for some period of time expressed great concern about the fact that I had 99 votes in the Senate. He didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. But I told him recently, sir, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't think I'd get 99 votes now.
I think that is absolutely true.
Anyways,
that was kind of the Democrats. Hey, look at us. We can be bipartisan. We'll vote in unison for your Secretary of State pick. Of course, it was all just a ruse. But he's absolutely right. His conduct as Secretary of State, his actions and decisive actions have been nothing short of stellar. To the state of Texas we go, where a woman has died after contracting a rare infection from a brain-eating amoeba while using tap water to clear out her sinuses at an RV campground. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published the death investigation in its Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report last Thursday, stating that the patient was an otherwise healthy 71-year-old. According to the report, she started experiencing serious symptoms like a fever, headache, and altered mental status within 4 days of using a nasal irrigation device filled with tap water. I'd guess it's a neti pot, something like that. The woman received medical treatment for the suspected primary amoebic meningoencephalitis infection, but according to the report, she started having seizures and died 8 days after the symptoms started. Sad story, of course. Lesson here is, if you need to flush out your sinuses, which is a good thing to do, can be a good thing, with something like a neti pot, don't use water, tap water, at an RV park. I think that's the big lesson there. Thoughts and prayers to her family, obviously. Sad story. But yeah, don't be flushing out your nose with tap water. Taylor Swift has been unseated as the world's youngest self-made female billionaire, according to Forbes. She was unseated by a 30-year-old hard-partying college dropout who has reaped a windfall from the artificial intelligence boom. Lucy Guo, a self-professed workaholic who rides an electric skateboard to work when she's not being chauffeured by an assistant, has a net worth of $1.3 billion, according to Forbes' list of America's richest self-made women that was released this week. Guo took Swift's title of world's youngest self-made woman billionaire in April when it was reported that Scale AI, that's a firm she co-founded with Alexander Wang in 2016 when she was just 21 and he was 19, That firm has been valued at $25 billion in a deal set to close this month. The tender offer has not yet been finalized, but it's expected to close at a valuation in a few weeks. Guo is the daughter of Chinese immigrants and was raised in San Francisco, where she picked up coding in middle school, dropped out of Carnegie Mellon University, as she clinched a $100,000 entrepreneurial scholarship bankrolled by billionaire investor Peter Thiel. And now here's this. Peter Thiel is the chairman of a company called Palantir Technologies. It's a big data analysis company, and he's been its chairman since its inception back in 2003. Alex Karp is actually the CEO of Palantir, and you may have seen headlines in recent days. It was from the New York Times, which originally reported it, that Palantir Technologies had been contracted by the Trump administration and the federal government to create a centralized database with data on every single American. That sounds really scary. And if it's true, any version of that is true, it absolutely is scary. And then you take into account words like this from Alex Karp a few years ago at a World Economic Forum confab, where he brags about how some of his companies, like Palantir...
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain.
So that is Alex Karp not that long ago at the World Economic Forum, bragging about how some of his company's software and technologies have, quote, single-handedly stopped the far right in Europe. Now, if you'll recall, I believe it was late last year, I featured a clip from Alex Karp after the election, where he in no uncertain terms discussed his pride in America, the hope he has for this country in the aftermath of the 2024 election, and how he is determined to make sure that this country turns around. But we saw those headlines this week, mostly from the New York Times, which caused me pause, and it should you as well, that his company has been contracted to create a database with data on every single America via Palantir Technologies. I had not really seen a counter to this narrative, and a lot of people on the right have picked this up. A lot of more anti-Trump people on the right have picked up this story. So that's kind of the story. The New York Times reporting that Palantir, Alex Karp, that's Peter Thiel and Alex Karp's company, has been tasked to set up for the federal government a centralized database. Bad idea if it's true on any level. Well, I stumbled upon this thread from somebody named Wendy Anderson. Let me just read her bio to you. Hashtag national security and hashtag defense technology executive. Department of Defense alum, ex-Palantir. So already, it kind of sounds like a deep stater bio, but I want to read this X thread that she put together, because a lot of people are just posting that New York Times article. Let's get another side of the story here. Here's what she had to say. Quote, after spending almost 6 years at Palantir, I know something about what they do and what they don't do. As a result, I want to address the inaccuracies in the May 30th New York Times article that's been picked up by multiple outlets this week. In this thread, I speak solely for myself. I departed Palantir in April and will share my new chapter soon. My purpose here is simple, to call for an honest and accurate reporting, especially in an era increasingly shaped by distortion and disinformation. Plenty of the people have had valid criticisms of Palantir, and I at times raised concerns while I was there, as the culture encourages. I believe in speaking up. I also believe in getting the facts right and straight. Criticize what you find problematic, but start with the truth. Inaccuracy number one, the headline, Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans, is fundamentally wrong. Palantir doesn't do that. They provide software that helps organizations analyze data those organizations already process. Inaccuracy number two, the article suggests Palantir is building a master database. That's not how Foundry, that's a software, that's not how Foundry works, Wendy Anderson says. It's data integration platform that connects to existing systems. Inaccuracy number three, which could easily merge data on Americans, that's a quote. This framing makes standard enterprise data integration sound sinister. Many companies and government agencies use similar tools to work with data across multiple systems. This isn't unique or nefarious technology. Inaccuracy number 4. The article seems to conflate what software can do with what it is doing. Yes, data integration tools can theoretically be misused. So can Excel, SQL databases, or any data tool. The article provides no evidence of misuse, only fear about possibilities. Inaccuracy number 5, describing routine government IT modernization as surveillance infrastructure. Agencies updating their data systems and analytics capabilities is normal. Accurate statement. Palantir has said they're a data processor, not a data controller. Clients define what data is accessed and how it's used. This is a crucial distinction that the article glosses over while creating surveillance panic. Again, Palantir does not collect, store, or sell personal data. The article takes standard enterprise software functionality and frames it as dangerous surveillance tech. It's like writing a scary article about Excel because, quote, it could be used to track Americans if someone put personal information or data in spreadsheets. Palantir is a public company in a democracy with a robust respect for the First Amendment. Of course, there are legitimate things to scrutinize and criticize, as with any company, from contracts to clients to strategy. Dr. Karp himself has said countless times, we built Palantir with the idea that dissent is not only acceptable, but required, but don't represent what their software does. Facts matter. So, all that I've seen from most people sharing this New York Times article on the right is the very scary headline and some of the factoids within that story. I just wanted to provide you the other side of the story. I don't know which side is necessarily true, which side is fake news, which side is true news, but I thought I could inform you a little bit better than what I've seen so far this week. When we come back, it'll be the results of our poll of the week. It's coming up next. Poll of the week I asked you, is the big beautiful bill? I gave you 3 different options. In 4th place, comment below. We'll get to those in a little bit. In 3rd place, mostly good. 15.6% of respondents said the big beautiful bill is mostly good. In 2nd place, 28.7% said the big beautiful bill doesn't matter or it's more complicated than whether it's just good or bad. And in 1st place, 51.2% say the big beautiful bill is mostly bad. Let's hear what you had to say. J.R. Burdick says should be renamed the Boomers' Big Beautiful Bill. It's all good for them. J.R. Burdick, I'm sure you would agree with me in saying that overall, and if you're a boomer listening to this, overall, the boomer generation has been, let's just say, a disappointment. And if this doesn't, again, if you're a boomer listening, if that doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you, so don't take offense. But J.R. Burdick, I would caution you, these sweeping pronouncements like this, just be careful what your motivation is. We both agree that the boomer generation has been, let's put it mildly, a disappointment. Just be careful that you're not making an idol out of boomer criticism. I don't know, something in my gut just tells me that I need to tell you that. Cyberpunk Dystopia says, more spending, yay. I sense a little sarcasm there. Barbara says, equally good and bad. Buys us time, does some good on the conservative priorities, but strapping our kids with more debt is abominable. In the end, I don't think there was ever a way to fix the financial hole we're in. Barbara, I keep coming to that conclusion myself over and over again. And I probably will until I see actual bipartisan political will to put an end to these ridiculous amounts of spending that we're doing. And we're not going to have a bipartisan consensus in Washington until there's a bipartisan consensus of the people. That's just the reality. Country Squire says, just make the best out of it. He copies a tweet where he said, we need to take the inventory of the big, beautiful bill the way a survivalist takes inventory of what he has in his pockets during a survival situation. Utilize what you have and don't dwell on what you don't. Prepare better that next time. It's well said, Country Squire. Andrew says, hard to say if it's mostly good or bad. Who knows what's really in it? Since most of Congress is corrupt, it's probably best we can do. Somebody once said, revival or bust. The people are the problem. Will in Wisconsin says, Elon is correct. A bill can't be both big and beautiful. Generally agree. Connor Willis says, no one really knows whether it's good or bad because none of us are reading it. Just being honest. Well, I appreciate that, Connor. Jim says one has to assume a bill that's thousands of pages long is stuffed with more pork than Lindsey Graham on date night. Yikes. We might get a few wins, but omnibus bills always have poison pills. Consider that our leaders hate us. I'm guessing the bill will be a net negative. Emmanuel Mueller says omnibus bills are never good. Stubbornmom.com says, why do there need to be 250 items in one bill? For reasons. Brett says, who cares? It's not enough. That's going to do it for Thursday. Tomorrow is Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can tell me any news story you think needs to be covered. Ask me any question you want. Make your submissions. Look for the pinned posts at Real AM Update on X, at Real AM Update on X for Ask or Tell Me Anything. Have a great Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.